Salu saj gandala Salu paya tangale Gavandan aayi mangale Ditta kahi na janima
What kind of direction can we take with the numerous performing artists that are now in the verge of a conflict that they have never really experienced in this scale?
Salu tur Kashmir da Koi aaya barfan cheer da Jana karke ranima
If I were to take my quest, I know that my quest will always be of an urban sensitivity and an urban mind looking into something which I highly respect.
If I was answering to that question, I would be an imposter. I can't answer such a question. These questions are answered by practical, concrete work.
Salu tur Gujarat da Koi main pau pehli raat da Ditte tang behai nima
Imagination of this whole South Asia, whether that mountain really is in the geophysical area of what we call South Asia or the Himalayas, that is from that glacier level to the level of the flowing of the water, and the fluidity of that water is the fluidity of these cultures. They are not frozen categories to be aggregated.
Another way of looking into South Asia could be from the ocean, which you started off, instead of from the northwest to the southeast. So when we're trying to move beyond the nation states, one invariably comes back to this question of New Delhi, India, and this big brotherly attitude. The history of South Asia is not merely a history of India. History of Bangladesh, Bengal, as much as Balochistan, as much as anywhere else.
I was not speaking about India at all. At no point, and I raise my voice here. Yes. I raise my voice here. If anyone got this that I was speaking about India, then it only means that the old woman has forgotten how to communicate.
She made me think that there was not one mainstream, not one river system. And that is what set my mind thinking about food, and I switched from foreign policy to food totally, because I think it did not make sense to engage myself with issues of SAARC nations constantly quibbling about younger brothers bringing up larger brothers.
Put that off the table for the next 2 days.
Absolutely.
SARC is not our agenda.
And it has another forum, it has another place. I think let them worry about that.
Pardon me if he happens, I don't know whether he was Indian or whether he was Afghani, whoever this Mr. Bharata was. And, but when he talks about, and this is the solid textual tradition of it, says rasa is that aftertaste of a meal when you have forgotten the components, and that is aesthetic.
खासो भात जमोली को कलकलो भूना गडेरी गावा आहा क्या बात है चूड़ा सज्ज उत्योल दूध बाकलो.
I think it's very important for aestheticians, culinary experts in celebratory discourses such as these to bring in the ethics of food. Spiritual food, physical food, ethical food, you are what you eat. And if it's toxic, if it's based on suffering of animals, it is not rasic. It's not rasa.
ओ रे गंध निराली साग क्या छौंका के गाँव में है काहे ओ हो रे आहा रे
I think what is happening is that at one level the boundaries are say blurred, there is greater import. But there is also commercialization and merchandising of that food. You would say this coarse food is great for lowering cholesterol, say madua or ragi, and it is good is in a food mart priced beyond the reach of a common man.
It's very, very obvious, the synthetic taking over because it's cheaper and naturally more affordable. So also in Pakistan, the clientele for, the handloom and the hand embroidered is obviously the elite.
Hand weaving is more expensive, so unless you have a market heavy for the elite section of the people, again the economy comes in, and how that craft is again sort of booked in for the upper classes of the export market, and for the common people, of course, you get very ordinary machine-made stuff.
And there are 5 people who are middlemen, and so the weaver gets nothing, and they all decide amongst themselves what the price will be, and the weaver has to sell it for that price. And they all told me that in season we go over the border and we weave saris, and we have lands here, so we come back.
We are not investing in the industry of hate. We are not, we wouldn't be artists otherwise. We are here to try and help the situation to improve the quality of life.
तुसा सबे सालू वालियां तुसा एक भी रख दियां डालियां तुद जे हा कोई ना निमा
So I wanted to find out about this drama which is done, which is banned in India, which was done in the 18th century, which is based on this form. And I was shocked and surprised to know that they have the same nagara, they have the same verse, which is called Behre Tawil, which is a Farsi term.
Yes.
So I asked her, did we get it from you or did you get it from us? She says, look, we have no drama tradition. We must have got it from you.
The theme of connectivity, this is fascinating because we connect with Nepal, Chadiya Nritya that Nepal still has, and derivatives of that. So that's a tantric tradition where you have mass dance dramas on Kali, which is earlier perhaps Buddhist performance.
To push somebody to buy a product. What I can do is to tell stories of this man or this woman.
I would be completely excited about a production that goes into a space that does not have borders, and I think that's what we're talking about really.
I think we're forgetting the elephant in the room. There's a big elephant, and the big elephant in the room is our colonialized minds.
Yes.
Okay, that's the biggest elephant in the room, and the fact that the younger generation, all of our children and grandchildren, are not attracted to what we're doing because of the bombardment they get.
The idea of South Asia itself is not secure today. And to what extent then are we sort of, positioning ourselves within a larger crisis?
The idea of South Asia is not because we don't get along and all that. We are being bombarded by people from outside who are wanting to create new identities for us.
Yes, that is very important.
That's what he was saying.
De-skilling society is killing South Asia faster than anything. If you de-skill society, South Asia will not be South Asia. And the skills we have are the repository for
What
mankind,
are you speaking
for
about?
mankind and for
If
humankind
not
as a
the
whole.
philosophers.
So puppeteer today has to contend with television. A balladeer who may be performing for the sickness of a camel has to contend with a veterinarian. The traffic that is really blocked because traffic has changed has to find different ways of adapting their skills. I was just showing you a traditional artist in a changing context, with a traditional painter expressing it himself.
जब हमारा काम ही नहीं रहा उस टाइम पे तो हम शहर की ओर आ गए कमाने के लिए कि हम जाएंगे कुछ कमाएंगे रोडों पे खेल करने जाते थे तो उधर हमें पुलिस वाले खेल नहीं करने देते कोई कहते तुम चोरियां करते हो कोई कहते तुम रास्ता जाम कर देते हो ऐसे करके हमें भगा देते हैं
There is a great dearth of research on itinerants, and we do need, if we could suggest that the Asian Heritage Foundation in Delhi could become a nodal point for sharing this information.
When we are talking about itinerant communities, what we tend to forget is the floating communities in the urban settlements. They become so faceless once they come to the city for a job.
There's histories of forced migration, of pain and sorrow, and also not only in the homeland but also in the home places where they're living today.
You know, significant artists have all left Afghanistan to reside in US.
निकल के शहर में आए तो गांव से भी गए छतों की आस में पेड़ों की छाँव से भी गए अजीब शहर है चेहरों का जाल ऐसा है किसी ने ये भी न पूछा कि हाल कैसा है
I thought till yesterday that is it to be a celebration? Is it to be there to show the world, like some of us were saying that this is what we have to offer from the South Asian thing. We have all this to offer, so what? What is happening to it? But when you go to a pilgrimage, there is a bazaar and you buy, because you know by buying it, your pilgrimage is sort of complete. That sort of a bazaar one can see, which has to be totally disassociated with the presentation.
I don't see the JIYO when you're talking about the artisans and the market. I don't think theatre is the right platform at all for it. For a project like JIYO, you need to find another. There has to be another platform which is much more stronger and much more vibrant, which would actually end up helping all the artisans, where their lives would actually change.
I have a serious problem with these 6 areas you have chosen, because I find that constricts us. If this is just to set us off, it's okay. But if
It was only to set you off.
If we are going to have to concentrate on food, health and beauty, itinerants.
Throw them out. Reject.
No. You see, if you suddenly work out a script and you say, "Arey, इसमें ये नहीं आया, ये भी हमको गुजरना पड़ेगा."
नहीं तो कौन कह रहा है तुम उस स्क्रिप्ट को ऐसे बनाओ जिसमें घुसेड़ने की बात ही ना हो. चलो आगे next.
I don't know whether this can be one larger effort with everyone, and each country, each nation takes back something which can then continue in each of their regions, because otherwise this becomes a lone effort which will be showcased, which is large and doesn't have travel worthiness.
And a lot of informations and discussions and things, very interesting discussion of course. And my mind is now full of chaos.
Very good.
I need some time. I need to go back and be cool some time and then see back.
South Asia. The first is the scale. Is it possible for me to do something about South Asia which is not a spectacle? If it is not a spectacle, how do I seduce people? If I don't seduce people, then what do I do with what I produce? So, my production, is it possible for me to do an abstract production on South Asia? Very bare, very minimal. If I have to think about South Asia, then two things. If we have a timetable, and I suppose it is necessary to have a timetable, then how do we implicate ourselves? Are we then moved by an aesthetics of urgency? And when I say aesthetics of urgency, I mean it in a very political sense. Number 3, is it at all sort of necessary for us to really keep on extending our team? I think you need a very minimal core team.
Geography and civilization have defined us as an entity that is different to other entities. And it is for us to determine whether we wish to salami slice ourselves into 8 or 9 different categories, or whether we'd like to come together to retrieve a heritage that actually does belong to all of us. It is in the field of philosophy and art and culture that human achievement really reaches its peak. There are many, many ways of making a better mousetrap, but there are very few ways of writing a better poem.
The next step, we don't have the next step. But suffice it to say that you'll be all closely kept in touch with it.
Building on the tradition of your communities in your villages, but also a bridge to the future, could also be a bridge to the rest of South Asia. That is my dream.
It's a start, and it's a very small start. It's the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. It's the first company in India owned directly by the practitioners, the artisans, the performers. We all have to come together to take this JIYO to the next stage, make it truly a brand that will make us proud, make all the people who have worked so hard, who are the direct beneficiaries, proud and self-empowered.